However, if you have respectful questions, that's fine. So let's give a little welcome to Mike before we go on.
Good morning. How's everybody feeling today? Good. Well, thank you so much for having me come today. This is such a really cool experience for me. I haven't been back in school in a long, long time. So I taught kids all over the country, just like you guys, about some really cool stuff. But what's really interesting is what I'm here to talk to you about, I don't really know that much about. That's kind of weird, right? That I can run a pretty successful business and not know much about it. So this is a unique or fun opportunity for me to talk to you about my experience as becoming a baker and learning how to keep up with such high demands here at Donut Love. Does anybody know how Donut Love started? Who here has been at Donut Love? Yay! If you haven't, you're missing out. So basically how Donut Love started was I was a police officer for about 16 years, and my mom had this really cool vision or dream that she wanted to open a bakery. My mom and I were very, very close growing up, and so she had talked about this many a times as I was growing up, all the way from your age, all the way through high school and as I went to college. But we never just followed it. And so my mom had passed away earlier in 2016, and so I decided to take this opportunity to be home for a little bit with my little guy. I have 3 boys. I have twins that are 9 years old, and I have a 2-year-old. His name is Cash, and Cash was just born, and so I took the opportunity in 12 weeks to stay home with Cash and started making donuts out of my house. I had no idea that I would be making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of donuts only weeks later. So I started making these things 2 at a time in my house, just in honor of my mom, and started selling them to a local farmer's market. Has anyone been to a farmer's market before? Yeah. So you can sell kind of neat goods at farmer's markets on the weekends. So I started bringing a few dozen donuts, and then we would sell out. And then weeks later, I brought a couple more dozen donuts, and we would sell out. And then finally, I brought about 20 dozen donuts, which is a lot of donuts to be making at home. It took me about 18 hours to make that many donuts because I could only cook 2 at a time. And we sold out in 3 minutes. And that's when I knew we had a problem. And so I decided that it was getting close for me to go back to work, to go back to being a police officer again. And I decided that I think I'm just going to make donuts now. And so I retired being a police officer, and I started to make donuts, which is a really, really big risk, right? Yeah. Because I knew what I was doing as a police officer, but what I didn't know what I was doing was making donuts. So the one thing that my wife said was, if we're going to make donuts, we are going to make the healthiest donuts that we can make. Because my wife is in fitness. So I'm not really sure how that worked out. But my wife wanted to make people healthy and make them work out. And I just wanted to make donuts and make everybody happy. And so we decided that we were going to start making mashed potato donuts. So did anybody know that we have real mashed potatoes in our donuts? Yeah. Mashed potato donuts, that's what we make. And what we do is we try and locally source everything from New England. So if you've ever had our blueberry donut or our raspberry donut or our strawberry donut that we released this week, all of those fruits come from here. We try and get everything from New England. Everything that we source, including the flours, everything comes from New England except sugar. And the reason we can't get sugar here is because it's way too cold for us here, right? It's freezing here. So we can't get sugar here. So that's the only item right now that we can't get to make our donuts with. So they're pretty healthy, if you think about it. Our supply and demand now, in the first 6 months of us being open, we made it to best in New Hampshire. And so we now sell pretty close to 100 dozen donuts a day, which is about 1,200 donuts every single day, which is pretty crazy. And guess who presses every single donut? This guy. I hand cut and hand press every donut that leaves the donut shop every day. So I kind of work really crazy hours. So most nights I go in when you guys are well into bed, and I work all night long while you guys sleep. And then when you guys get on the bus to go to school, I'm still at work, because that's how many donuts we have to make every day. So we make a lot of donuts. I know that you guys have been talking about supply and demand. The problem with us now is that our demand is this high, and then at times our supply can only be this high, because the business only started with my wife and I. And now we're pretty close to having 8 employees, which is pretty crazy to me to think that I'm responsible for 8 other people now to pay their bills. So that's kind of where we're at this point. Do you guys have any questions for me?
No.
Yes, sir.
What is hand pressing?
Hand pressing is when we cut a donut. Our donuts come out like this big when you cut the dough.
Yeah.
And then I have to take that donut and I stretch it, and then I press it all the way out, and then I have to cook it. So every single one of those, 1,200 times, has to get stretched and pressed. Good question. Yes?
So did you like run out of ingredients to make donuts so that people wanted more donuts and you couldn't make that much?
Yes. So in the very beginning, obviously, because I had never been a donut maker before, I didn't even know how to order ingredients, right? I had to learn how to do that stuff. So in the beginning, I thought I was ordering enough, but clearly I wasn't, because we were running out of donuts or running out of ingredients every day. And so I'm still learning that. That's a great question, because I'm still learning how to order and how to do that properly now. Because right now, I was just talking to some of your teachers, and our demand is higher now in February than it was in June and July of the summer. Yes. I love your shirt, by the way.
Thanks.
Why do I love your shirt?
Because it has a lot of details.
Because there's a donut on there. There you go.
How much times have you sold out?
We sell out every single day. So we are open Wednesday morning is our first day back. We work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday through Sundays we sell out pretty much every single day. Great question. Yes?
Are you the manager?
I am the manager. I am not the boss. My wife is the boss. Yes?
Do you use yeast?
That's a great question. So she asked, did everybody hear that? She asked, do you use yeast in your donuts? We do not, which makes our donut even more unique. So because we use mashed potatoes, we chose not to use yeast in our donuts, which means, what does yeast do? Do you know?
It makes the donuts rise.
You're absolutely right. So what yeast does, when you put yeast into a dough, it will make the dough expand, right? That's usually how people make breads. That's usually how some people make donuts, particularly like Dunkin' Donuts. That's how they make their donuts, it's a yeast donut. But because we don't use yeast, we don't have to allow the dough to rise. So our donut is a mashed potato donut, which tastes more like what's called a cake donut. So great question. Yes?
You think you're better than Dunkin' Donuts?
I think I'm better? I don't think I'm better than anybody. I just get up and go to work, and that's my job. That's what my wife tells me anyway. Yes? Where is Donut Love is the question. Great question. Donut Love is located in Northampton. Does everybody know where that is?
Yeah.
All right. By karate class. Yeah. Over here.
Do you get to sleep?
Do I get to sleep? Not much. Typically, because I'm off Monday and Tuesdays, which is typically when bakers are off, I sleep mostly Monday and Tuesdays. Except today. I chose to come here. No, I'm just kidding. Most days I don't sleep. Because guess what? Much like you guys, we live a very busy life. And so I have 3 boys of my own that need to go to hockey and karate and gym class and all this stuff. So we're a pretty active family. Yeah.
Don't the donuts fall apart when they're chocolate covered? Because the chocolate might be very hot.
Great question. She said, don't donuts fall apart when you put chocolate on them because they're too hot. So some donuts need to what's called rest before you can start working with them, which means that the donut has to sit and cool before we can start putting toppings and chocolates and things like that on them. There are certain donuts that we do use. We have to have them very hot in order for them to work, like vanilla glaze or chocolate glazed donuts. We dip them so hot that you can barely hold on to them. But most of the ones that you guys have with all the cool toppings on them, we have to let them rest for a little bit before we can start working with them. Good question. Yes?
Do you put sprinkles on your donut?
We do, sometimes. We make a sprinkled donut in honor of my mom called the Mama O. And it's the Mama O, and it's pink, and it has some really beautiful sprinkles on it. Good question. Yes?
Do you have more than one shop?
We only have one shop because that's all that I can handle right now. But yeah, we only have one shop.
Yes.
Yes?
How much toppings do you have in your whole restaurant?
That's also a great question. He asked how many toppings do we have in our restaurant, and the question, the answer is sometimes we have 22 different flavors depending on the weekend, which is a little crazy, to be honest. But we really have fun. All the donut makers really enjoy experimenting with new donuts and doughs, and so we try and keep things really fresh. So we do a lot of different toppings every single week. So you never really know what you're going to get. Yeah.
Why do you run out of sugar in the winter?
Why do we run out of sugar in the winter? We don't run out of sugar. We can't get it here in New England. So what we have to do is we have to call a warehouse, and they do all our delivering. So they make sure we have everything we need to make donuts for you guys. Yes. The most popular flavor donut that we have probably is cinnamon sugar or what's called chocolate sea salt, which is a chocolate donut dipped in vanilla, and then we sprinkle salt over the top of it. And most times, we sell those to females. That's their favorite.
My mom and I have 2 sisters like it.
Oh yeah? Is that what they get?
Yeah.
Do you have a question for me?
What's the least liked donut?
We don't have a least favorite donut because we sell out every day. which is great. Most times, if we're down to like the last couple, people will say, I really didn't want that, but I'm going to take it because you have it. Yes, sir.
How many toppings do you have in all? Like how much chocolate and stuff? Like how much toppings do you have in all?
So it depends on the day, but typically, most days we run out of every single topping or glaze that we have. So that's really hard also to keep up because as we're talking about supply and demand, right? I have to make donuts over here, and then we have to make all the glaze, right? And then we have to come up with all the toppings. So all of our toppings, I'll say most of our toppings are all handmade. So you have to make all the donuts, you have to hand make all the toppings, and then you have to come up with all the glazes. So it's kind of like 3 major things that you have to keep up with demand with, right? Yeah. Yes? I couldn't hear you.
You just make donuts?
That's it. We're just a donut shop. That's all I can handle. Yes?
How did you make the prices of each donut?
Great question. He asked, how do you make the prices of each donut? So there's actually this like really crazy formula that you have to come up with, right? Which is gonna like really bore you guys. But basically what you have to do is you have to figure out how much ingredients cost, how much you're actually making with that ingredients, and then what it costs per donut to make that. Does that make sense? So you have to take all your ingredients, all your work, so you have to figure in all the work it takes to do that, what the ingredients cost, and then you have to actually break that number down. The price is per donut, right? Which is a lot of work. And that was probably one of the hardest things I had to figure out because I was like, they're just donuts. We just got to make them. And then you start figuring that it's not just you anymore, that I have to actually pay people. I have to pay rent. I have to pay to run the fryer to make donuts. I have to pay to put the lights on at the shop. I have to pay for the boxes that we put the donuts in that go to you. I have to pay for all those little wax things that go in between the donuts to make sure that everything tastes great. I have to pay for gloves. I have to pay for aprons. So all of those numbers go into that number. That's a great question, buddy. Yes?
What kind of flavored donuts do you have?
What kind of flavored donuts do we have? So we can have anywhere between 18 to 26 different flavored donuts. Our most common are probably cinnamon sugar, vanilla glazed, chocolate sea salt, chocolate glazed, lemon, old fashioned. What's an old fashioned donut? Has anyone ever heard of that term before? Yeah.
An old-fashioned donut means that it has nothing on it.
Great.
Just a plain donut.
Yes, just plain donuts. And we sell a lot of just plain donuts. So we have a lot. Yes.
When you're out of donuts, do you, like, if you only have 3 or 2 left and there's no customers in, do you close it and then work for some more and then open it?
Sometimes we've had to do that, like in the summer. We've run out so early in the morning because we sell out so fast that sometimes we've actually had to shut the shop down for 20 minutes to just restock all the donuts again. So yes, that has happened. Most days now, we don't have that issue. So most days we sell out probably around noonish, like 12 o'clock. And if there's 1 or 2 donuts that are left over, usually my workers eat them. Yes.
Well, I would judge them. How would you really handle, like, shifts?
How would we handle shifts? That's a great question. He asked, how do we handle shifts? So I'm very blessed that we have great workers that choose to kind of be very flexible with shifts. So a lot of our bakers come in at 3 o'clock in the morning and they go home probably around 12 o'clock most days. So it's really, really, really hard to get up in the middle of the night, particularly in the freezing cold. So I'm very blessed that those guys do that, but I go in usually the night before and work through the night. So someday, I hope, we just have people working set schedules, but right now, we work 3 o'clock in the morning until we close. Yeah.
How do you make your business successful?
How do I make my business successful? Great question. I am just very blessed, and I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've had. I'll be completely honest with you. I just focus solely on Donut Love and what Donut Love's doing, and just keep doing the best we can. And I think that that's really a key to having a successful business, is not worrying about what everybody else is doing, but focusing on how to make you the best version of you. Does that make sense? Good. Yes. Yes.
How many people work for you?
How many people work for me? Right now, because it's the winter, we have about 8 people. In the summer, all my college girls, as I call them, come home, thank God. And we will have probably around 12 people that come home and will help us through the summer. And they're really good, hardworking people. Someone I have, yes. How many people do we get each day? I honestly don't know the exact number. I can tell you that we get a lot. A lot. We've had some really great opportunities to be on TV. So we have a lot of people come and visit us now that are people who just love food and love the film about food. This week alone, we had 2 people come on from YouTube and Instagram that were really big deals in the food world, and they came and filmed us this week, which was really fun. Yes?
Where do you sell your donuts?
Where do we sell them? Right now, we sell them just at the shop. Occasionally, we will sell them at KB's Bagel in the summers. And sometimes we do special desserts for some of the restaurants here in the Seacoast. And we make ice cream sundaes with them. So they take one of our giant donuts, they fill the center of it with ice cream, and then they top it with all kinds of cool toppings. Yeah.
What was the first donut that you made at the shop?
The first donut I ever made at the shop, I think it was a vanilla glazed. And it's funny because I was looking back just to kind of prepare myself for this super important conversation I'm having with you guys. And I look back and I think how far and how much the business has grown only in a year, because our donuts don't even look the same. They were like skinny, and I kind of look at them and I say, we really did this, selling these? But now I think they're the best version that they're going to be. So I think it was vanilla glazed. Yes? Yeah?
How do you make different flavored donuts, like in chocolate and strawberry?
So he asked, how do we make different flavored donuts? So most of our donut flavors are actually in the dough. So what I try and do is I try and put as much fruits. So we have an apple donut, a strawberry donut, a blueberry donut, and we're working right now to make a lemon donut. And so what we do is we kind of blend natural fruits and we put them right into our doughs. So if you broke open our blueberry donut, it would be filled with blueberries. Our strawberry donut's the same way. So we try and flavor everything with natural fruit.
You said your mom inspired you to open the shop. Is
Yeah.
it also her recipe, or is it your?
Good question. So my mom inspired me to open the shop because she was a hardworking cook growing up. My mom did not know how to cook for probably the first 10 years of her marriage to my dad, and then really worked hard. And then I spent a lot of time in the kitchen with my mom. It is not her recipe per se. It's a recipe that my wife and I decided that we wanted to stay kind of rustic to New Hampshire. and make it about New England. So I started researching how to make potato donuts from the early 1800, 1900 era, and then made our own twist to it.
Let's do like 3 more questions.
Of course, yeah. Yep, 3 more.
How did you make your toppings?
How do we make our toppings? So I just answered about the dough. We try and use as much natural fruit as we can. Some of the toppings have fruits in them. We don't use anything that's unnatural. So all the colorings that you see at our shop are our natural colorings. So most of them are plant-based or fruit-based. Yeah.
How much money do you make?
Great. 0. It's a great question. She asked me how much money I make. Honestly, guys, being your own boss pays for itself. I don't make hardly any money, to be honest. The business costs so much money to run and to pay people that you would think that people who own their own businesses make a lot of money, but they do not. My focus is to stay passionate about what we're doing. I don't feel like I'm working where I felt like I worked all the time as a police officer. So this experience pays for itself. But great question. All right, one more in the back.
So when you bake, does anybody bake with you, or are you the only person who works on that job?
Great question. She asked me if I was the only person who works on baking. We have 3 other bakers that are there. We have one person who is a cake decorator, who she does a lot of our toppings and comes up with some really cool stuff to put on the donuts. But collectively, we have 4 people who do that. So it's me and 3 other people, and we make all the dough, we make all the donuts, and we decorate all the donuts.
Thank you for being such a respectful audience.
Great job, guys.
Thank you for coming in.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Everybody
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.